Hi everyone, I'm HL Trev. Welcome to my video, Old Earth versus Young Earth. Does the Bible science fit in the science of today? Well, I want to make a video to see if the Noah's flood fits into science of today. And I looked up evolutionists, creationists, and many different kind of websites, many different kind of views and YouTube videos and other videos to see how does the Noah's Ark fit in the Ice Age, and if there was Ice Age, or if there was a asteroid. I did a kind of what it looks like, what science looks like, and all that. Now I got these pictures from a YouTube video called "Science Confirms a Young Earth." The radioactive dating methods are flawed. Now I want to show you a faster way and give a clear idea on how these dating methods can be way off. To give you an easier way of understanding, and I'm gonna use a piece of metal and how it's rusting and I have pictures of that site using an hourglass as an example. Now in this picture, it shows the different material and what it decays into. Now if you take a piece of metal and if you want to see how long it's going to take to rust. Okay, let's say it takes like 30 years for the metal to rust. I'm not sure how long it takes, but this is just for an example, okay? Now, say if it takes that long, and you found another piece of metal that has rusted just as much, now there's three assumptions that you've made that could be wrong. Now, on this first assumption is that what they're trying to get at is, let's say that the metal was made with some rust in it. Okay, then if you find another piece of metal that has rusted just as much, then you would assume it took 30 years for that metal to rust. I know what you're going to say. It's a new piece of metal. There wouldn't be any rust in it. That's because it was made by man. If it was made by a volcano, well, it could have certain gases, and depending on the volcano, it could have certain so much of these dar atoms that what they're talking about in these pictures already in it. Now, if you take this for example here, that this lava flow that they knew that only happened so long ago, but when they had radioactive dating tests done on it, it said it was way older than it really was. For another example here, how could this diamond be 6 billion years old? It's way older than Earth. It's because they already inherit that sister atoms, like already the rust into metal, like I was talking about before. And that's why they got the age of this diamond wrong. Now, for the second assumption, if I took a piece of metal and soak it in water for a little while, it rusts way quicker than if I had a metal just sitting out on the counter. And you might come along and assume that it took 30 years, because if you knew that it took 30 years for it to rust and you didn't know how it was soaked, well, you might assume that. Now, if the rock has been underneath the ground, or if it's been frozen for a long time, or it's been soaked in water, if they didn't know, then how do they know that the elements haven't affected the rock? Like, can you imagine if it maybe only took a week for that metal to rust, but you figure it took 30 years? Can you see how off that could be with the radioactive dating? This last two pictures here kind of shows what I'm kind of talking about here. Kind of gives you an idea. I just found this on the website. You can pause the picture if you don't have time to read it. Third one is if it decayed, say 1,000 years ago, at a different rate as if it were today. Say if it was slower back then and then it slowly speeds up, it'll be decaying at a different rate as today. So that could make a difference too. Now you can see how they could be way off. How old they find out the dinosaurs are is they do radioactive dating on the rocks around the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs are a fossil, and because their bones become like a rock or whatever, and the carbon 14 dating is for like plants and material and stuff, and a carbon 14 dating is only good for so many thousands of years. When I try and look up how many years carbon 14 dating could date, it's always a different amount on every website or different sciences. I really don't, not sure. Now, I found this example here on this website where they found this hammer inside this rock, where the rock around it was dated for 400 million years old. Well, that is obviously wrong, right? They misdated the rock. The radioactive dating was wrong. And even parts of the hammer was start to forming into coal. Now at the beginning, they say there was one continent called Pangaea. Now here are some pictures that show what it might have looked like. And here's another picture that show the continents close together. Kind of gives you an idea. Now earlier on, I was watching this YouTube video of Dr. Grady McMurray, and it was called The Water is Cleaved, which you can see below this picture in white. Now here are pictures from that site that show the under ocean's floor. Now in the Bible, it talks about how the water came up through the earth like a fountain. Picture here is about chapter 7, verse 11 of Genesis in the Bible of Noah's Ark. And that YouTube video I was talking about explains how the translation that comes out the water is cleaved. There's water near the Earth's core. I imagine it got super hot, man, really hot. Now, if you think of like a kettle, it gets really hot, how much pressure the water builds up and comes out. Okay, now, like a knife cuts through something, like a cleaver, right? The water is cleaved or knifed through the earth because it got super hot. Now you can see the ridges and cracks where the water would have knifed through the earth. Now this picture and the next few pictures are from other websites, not from the water cleaved YouTube video I watched. Now the evolutionist point of view, I guess, on this is that this happened slowly through volcano activity through these ridges that took millions of years to happen. It took many years to push these continents apart. Millions of years. And they always explain everything with millions of years. And this picture kind of shows you the round point of view. Now this next picture kind of shows you how the water cleaved and pushed Earth apart. Top of the picture, the first block, is when the water is just first coming out. Now the bottom part, the second block, kind of shows if the water floods the Earth, and if you imagine that the crust might lift up from the Earth and glide and float on top of the water. Once enough water got underneath the Earth crust plates, it'll cause it to lift. And in the bottom part, shows you how it creates these ridges with the cracks and how the Earth moves apart. Kind of shows up why it would take days or years, not millions or hundreds of millions of years to happen. Now this is also explains why the continents would even move in the first place. You can imagine they'll be stuck to Earth at one point, but the thin crust of the Earth is dirt, not like the mantle, right? That would be rock. Now here's a picture of the Earth without the oceans. Now if you look to the left and to the right here, you kind of see the continental plates. Now you kind of picture how they'd move around the Earth's crust if there's water underneath them. Now there's tons of water that's been absorbed inside the Earth today. And how the ridge is in the middle and how it have pushed the continents apart. You kind of see that in the picture here. What way makes more sense? That took millions of years or the way I'm telling you? Think about it. You be the judge about it. One thing happened with the continents is that North America was up north, so when it flooded, it got frozen, right? It might have traveled a little bit north before it ended up where it was too, I'm not sure. And it would take a lot of water, something like Noah's flood or something, to create huge enough ice to create these Great Plains, right? Through North America there. And that the fact that there's all this hot water and shoot up in the air and into the oceans, there'd be a lot of vapor and steam. It'll also create a lot of snow and ice too. The way the weather was and how the continents move around, it might have not had an ice age. Now when the flood happened, I figured that there's a bunch of mud and water that kind of trapped and pushed all these animals and plants together into pockets and cover them up, and the rocks and stuff settle on top and that cause pressure, and that's how these get these huge oil wells, and because they're so big, and how you get these so much coal built up together. Well, scientists usually say that there's a whole bunch of water and stuff on the earth. That's how coal and oil was formed, that they build up in the water and died over time. That mud and rocks cover them up afterwards. And after the flood, there would be a whole lot of swamps and water left on the earth till it sunk into the earth and evaporated away. It would take a lot of animals and dinosaurs and such organisms to create such a huge amount of oil that's been underneath the ground. Okay, that it would take a huge event for that to happen. Now they're covered by sedimentary rocks. It takes water, a bunch of moon water, for this plants and animals to be covered by these rocks. Now, where would all this water come from if there wasn't this huge flood? Scientists say it takes like millions of years or hundreds of thousands of years for this stuff to happen, but they really don't know. There's usually sedimentary rocks on top of the coal or oil. Now, if there's these swamps that cover the earth and all these animals and stuff, plants died and fall in the swamp, would there be one constant stream of oil, coal in there? But there are all these pockets and huge pockets of oil and coal. Now, what you can see up here where the sedimentary rocks have gathered, and that's where they have found fossilized dinosaurs in those sedimentary rocks. It usually always have to do with water. Now, fossils can be formed in a number of different ways, but the best way is with water. In a watery environment buried with mud and rocks. And from all the fossils they found on land, doesn't it kind of sound like Noah's flood? How could these fossils get there if there's no flood? I mean, sedimentary rocks are gathered by water, and that's where mainly dinosaur fossils were found with. Not just the dinosaurs, but also many modern animals have been found with the dinosaurs fossilized. Well, they say that all the animals must have been buried millions of years after the dinosaurs were there. Well, they date the rocks by carbon dating the rocks around the dinosaurs. Now, they say that dinosaurs are fossilized, so they wouldn't have any soft tissue, there wouldn't be anything found with the dinosaurs. Back in 2005, they found this soft tissue in a T-Rex's leg, and any tissue that was there should have been gone a long time ago, so they thought it must have been contaminated. When they tested the tissue, that's when they found out that the tissue really did come from a T-Rex. That's not the only time they have found tissue. In 2011, they found a whole dinosaur with skin intact and everything. They're saying this dinosaur must have been preserved for 110 million years. 110 million years, that's a long time. Now, you think about 100 years, I mean, that's like your whole life or even longer. That's a long time. But you think about 1,000 years, as you know, 100 years is 1,000, right? Well, a million is 1,000 of 1,000 years. I mean, and they're saying 110 of those. I doubt that. Evidence seems to be pointing to thousands of years, not millions of years every time I look. I'm not going to say the name of these trees because I don't think I can pronounce them right. But I'll show you pictures of them. Now, the oldest tree here, if you see on this picture here, talks about the oldest tree being 9,500 years. But that's very rare, and I'm not even sure how they know that that's how old it is. Can you imagine cutting the tree in half and counting all the rings? I mean, 9,500 rings? Just think about only 100 rings, 100 circles, unless 1,000 or 9,000 of them. I checked out the Wikipedia website, and they figure this is pretty much the oldest tree here that's not much older than 5,000 years, which is around the time of Noah's flood. Lists of trees from the Wikipedia website, and they're all pretty much around that Noah's flood or younger on this list here. You could see, I do believe maybe some vegetation and trees did survive the Noah's Ark flood, but I don't think any of the animals and insects have on land anyways. Pretty much the same way with the oldest civilizations. Pretty much Mesopotamia is the oldest civilizations around the time of the Noah's Ark. I'm wondering why they said it's date back to 10,000 BC, because they seem to have two different dates. Well, I realize they're talking about there's people around there, but they didn't develop really into civilization until like 7,000 years later. Well, that's longer than Mesopotamia from 3,700 BC from today. Well, it didn't seem to make sense to me, and then I started wondering, well, maybe it's their dating methods, like carbon-14, maybe it's off. Seems like the older the date, the older the dating method is off. Now, I know a lot of these websites are a little bit different. They mostly say the same thing, that the oldest civilizations seem to start at the time of the flood, and Mesopotamia seems to be on the oldest. Now this picture here, it looks like it gives a good idea when the civilizations have started. When the waters subsided and the Noah's flood ended, the Bible says that the Noah's Ark ended up on the mountains of Ararat, where you can see it's located right here on this map by that star. Now I'm going to take you over to my globe here and I'll show you how this all fits here. My globe, okay. Now if you come up here to north of Africa here, you see Turkey here, okay. Right next to Turkey here is the mountains of Ararat, okay. This is where the Bible says that the Noah's Ark ended up. And I figure after they get off the ark here, that they probably won't want to stay in the mountains or wherever. They might be cold. They won't want to necessarily go north. They probably came down south because this is where they say that the world's oldest known civilization is. Okay, and Mesopotamia, right? And then there's Egypt, where it's like the second, usually the second oldest, they say. Sometimes they say first, but usually the second. And then they kind of seem to spread out because then they kind of came over here to India and China. They're old, quite old known civilizations, but they're a little bit younger than these other ones, usually they say. Okay, and then also there's Europe here, that Rome is quite old, but not quite as old as these other ones. So you kind of see how, they kind of spread out and how it all kind of fits with the Bible. Because there's Israel, Jerusalem is like right around here somewhere in between, how it fits with the Bible here. Okay. So I found that quite interesting that Noah's Ark ended up so close to where everybody figures is the oldest known civilizations. Now I know that sometimes they pick other civilizations oldest, but this is basically the most common. Now you can kind of see why this is the most likelihood of the order they came in the civilization, how they kind of spread out. Now, I just want to show you here, this is where Israel is, where I was showing you on the globe here. Now, if you still think the dinosaurs is very old, the Earth is very old, here are some pictures and websites about dinosaurs being around not so long ago. Thank you for watching my video. Hope you find it as interesting as I have. Hope to see you again. Should leave a like and subscribe. That'd be awesome. Thank you. Bye.